Welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is the founder of the UK Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. In this podcast, Tracy shares destination guides, travel tips, and itinerary ideas, as well as interviews with a variety of guests who share their knowledge and experience of UK travel to help you plan your perfect UK vacation. Join us as we explore the UK from cosmopolitan cities to quaint villages, from historic castles to beautiful islands, and from the picturesque countryside to seaside towns.
Hello and welcome to episode 72 of the UK Travel Planning Podcast. In this week's episode, I'm going to be doing a trip report from my day trip from London to Paris, which I took in June this year. I know this is an eagerly awaited episode. We've had lots of questions about that day trip in particular, and the reason I decided to do this episode and actually to do the trip from London to Paris is that we are often asked in the Facebook group about how to travel from London to Paris. And while we do have a podcast about the Eurostar, which is episode 40, which covers how to get between the two capitals by train independently, we are asked a lot about visiting Paris on a day trip from London. Is it doable? How do you do it? Is it worth it? And so we do include Paris in our best day trips from London by train article. So I thought, you know what? Let's do it. I've been to Paris numerous times before, but I thought, okay, let's book a tour in June, which is what I did. A fully escorted tour. So because there are a variety of day tour options available from London to Paris. So you can take fully guided or unescorted tours. But on this occasion, I chose to take a fully escorted tour. Because I think that's the most popular option if you're a first-time visitor to Paris. So in this episode, I'm going to share my thoughts about the pros and cons of taking a guided day tour, talk you through the day, how it went, what it looked like, what sort of things we did, so you can consider if this is the right option for you. So Doug is going to ask questions about the day.
Bonjour, thank you, Tracy. I'll take it from here then.
Okay.
Right, so first question. Can you give us a brief overview the planned day?
Yeah, okay, so basically the tour included taking the Eurostar from St. Pancras International over to Paris, Gare du Nord station, a bus tour of Paris, the main highlights of Paris, a boat trip with lunch down the Seine, and then another kind of coach tour, some of the highlights of Paris, and then back onto the Eurostar to London. And this was a guided tour, so we did have a guide with us.
Well, expanding the day a bit more, how did the day start? First thing in the morning, how did that go?
Okay, well, it was a bit of a disaster to start with. We had to meet at 5:30 a.m. to St. Pancras International at a designated meeting spot, which sounds great. But unfortunately, somebody's alarm didn't go off, did it, Doug?
Whoops. Sorry.
Right, so I had hoped that Doug set the alarm for 5:15, but he kind of hadn't. So I woke up at approximately, I think it was something like 5:14, and I had 16 minutes to get dressed, sorted, and next door to St. Pancras International. So what we had done, which was really advantageous, is that we had booked a hotel right next to the train station. So, and I'd also prepared everything the night before. So it was a case of getting dressed, brushing my teeth, out the door. It was that quick. So I did actually manage to get there, unbelievably, by 5:27. I did take my makeup with me, had to put that on the train, but my main thing was that I was actually there. So that's what you have to do. There's a designated place that you go and meet your guide, which is what I did, yeah.
And a few choice words in my direction the entire way.
Yes, I have to say yes.
So once you get on the train, the train ticket itself, really, did you have to book the train ticket separately from the tour?
No, that was all included in the tour. So you did have a choice between if you wanted standard or standard premier on the Eurostar. So I chose to kind of treat myself. So I went standard premier, which was lovely.
Oh, good. So everybody with the same class of travel, did they all sit together on one?
No, we were given the tickets by the guide. So once everybody got there was only 16 of us in the tour. It was a small tour. When we got there, he handed us our tickets and the return tickets for that evening. And he also talked about how, for those of us who hadn't done it, I've obviously done it numerous times before, but for those that hadn't done it before, he talked through the process of how you go through to catch the train. So he did talk us through that. Also, people had different, they were doing different things during the day, but I will talk about that a little bit later. But we were all catching the Eurostar there and the Eurostar back. Some people standard Premier, others standard. So obviously, if you'd booked with your family and you were in standard, you would be all together. But we weren't as a group all together, if that makes sense.
That's good. So obviously, these trains are long and lots of people catch the train. So I can imagine it would be quite busy when you get there. So how did that work?
Yeah, it was really busy when we got off the train in the Paris Gare du Nord. But the guide had said, right, when you get off the train, you walk to the end of the platform. I'll be standing at this spot and I'll wait for you there. So obviously, got off the train, you walk to the end of the platform, and I just waited a few minutes. I think I got off probably about first in our group, so I had to wait a few minutes because there's a lot of people getting off the train. So I waited, and then kind of after a few minutes, we were all kind of in the group. So the train actually left London at 6:31 a.m. and we arrived at 9:48. So you've got to remember, Paris, France is an hour ahead during the summer months. So although the journey only takes 2 hours, 17 minutes, you actually arrive, that you would think you'd arrive at 8:48. We didn't arrive at 9:48 because of hour ahead. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. And then, obviously, coming out of the Gare du Nord station, so what happened then when you first arrived, actually in Paris itself?
Yeah, well, we were with the guide, so then we followed him through to a coach, which was waiting just outside the station. So it was a few minutes walk from the train station. So we walked out, met the coach there, and then after that, we took a tour of the main sites on the coach. It was quite slow because Paris traffic is pretty hectic. But the guide was excellent, actually. He was really, really good. He talked us through what we're seeing and some of the history. And also, which I thought was amazing and really good and really thoughtful thing to do, is that he taught everybody on the coach some basic words of French so that they could communicate.
That's a good idea.
So that was really good. I speak French, so it's not such a big deal, but if you don't speak French, it's really good. So, and that's really important, have a few words of French. So if you walked into a cafe or a shop, you'd know to say bonjour. So yeah, so that and merci and a few words like that. So that was really good. So he was excellent. He spoke fluent French, so that's really helpful if you don't. So it was good. It was good, but as I say, it was quite slow because obviously it was a Saturday and the traffic was quite hectic.
So after the coach tour, then what happened?
Well, at that point, some of us were doing a cruise on the Seine with a meal. So, but some people weren't. So we actually headed to catch the boat, which is near the Eiffel Tower. Now, I had actually initially booked an Eiffel Tour champagne lunch, but that was changed the week before because it was cancelled. And I was given a small refund for the difference. And then I was actually allocated to a cruise lunch on this boat along the Seine. So we basically went to where the boats were leaving from and given the tickets for those of us who were having a meal. Those that weren't, they just went off to explore the area. So I went off, I found my pier to board the boat for my experience on the Seine.
Oh, that's good. So you had lunch there, and so did you pre-book your lunch? Were you given a selection first?
No, there was a choice from the menu. So we had 3 courses plus a glass of wine. The food was very, very good. Really enjoyed it. It was really tasty. Really, really good food.
That's good. And a lot of interaction between people because you're a solo traveller. So how did that go?
Yeah, well, I was really lucky actually because I was a little bit concerned because obviously travelling solo, you kind of think I'm going to be sitting here having this lunch on my own. But I was so lucky because next to my table were 2 friends who had gone to university in the UK together, actually in Newcastle, which was amazing because that's where I'm from. And they meet up occasionally in different parts of Europe. So one of the ladies lived in Holland and the other lived in England. And they were so lovely. So they were chatting to me. They kind of realized I was sitting on my own. So the entire time we're chatting away to each other and they shared their wine. They were very, very generous. So it was lovely. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, as you go along the Seine, you see the lovely sights as well.
I've seen the photos. It does look like a lot of fun.
It was. The food was really good. The wine was good. The company was lovely. It was actually a really lovely boat trip. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
That's good. And so after the lunch cruise, what happened then?
So after the lunch, we had a time to meet up. So got off the cruise and probably had about 20 minutes before I had to meet up with a guide. So we'd all been given a designated spot to go to. So after that, we met the guide and then we walked back to the coach, which is parked maybe about 10 minutes walk away. And then with the coach, we headed to the Champs-Élysées, got out, took some pictures of the Arc de Triomphe. And then we went to Montmartre for about 5 in the afternoon. I'd say that was around about that time. And then we had an hour and a half to wander Montmartre, which in my opinion was a little bit too long because actually by that point people were pretty tired because obviously it is a long day. There was a massive thunderstorm on the way as we were driving across Paris as well. Luckily by the time we got to Montmartre, that had stopped because I was thinking, oh gosh, we're going to get drenched here because I hadn't taken a rain jacket. So we arrived in Montmartre and everybody got off the bus to have a look around. So as I say, luckily it was dry and it's sunny. It was very hot. This is June, so it was actually quite hot in Paris, yeah.
Okay, so what did you do to fill the time you had at Montmartre?
Well, because I've been there so many times before, to be honest, I just kind of walked up to where the bottom of the funicular is, up to the Sacré-Cœur, and I just sat and people watched. And I did do a little bit of a walk around the area. I did pop into a shop and just buy a drink and some snacks as well, because I was a little bit peckish. And I thought, well, going back on the train, I'll just have something if I need it, waiting for the train. So I did that. I think it was quite a long period of time in Montmartre, but there is a lot to see in the area. So I suppose, and that'll be one of the tips I will recommend later, is that if, do a little bit of research so that you know where you're going when you go to that area in particular, because you're not with the guide, you meet up with him kind of after about an hour and a half. So I literally just sat. It was crowded. It was crazy, crazy, crazy busy. Seriously, I've never seen Paris as busy as it was. Yeah, it was really, really busy.
Okay, so then after that, you picked up and you're taken back to the North.
Yeah, so we met the guide, went back on the coach, and then we drove back to the Gare du Nord, and we all went through the tickets and the customs and everything with the passports. And then just into the waiting area for the Eurostar. Kind of said goodbye to the guide at that point because obviously we were going to get on the train and head back. So I think the train was it was about 9 minutes past 8 in the evening, and then we arrived back again at 9:30 because of course you get that hour back. So as we say, we were given the return ticket that morning. So it was fairly easy, and because everybody kind of had already done that at St. Pancras International, they kind of knew the procedure. Yeah. So again, it was busy though at the Gare du Nord. There was the Eurostar waiting area, departure lounge. It was quite busy, but there are toilets there. There are shops there. There's a few cafes. It was actually just finding somewhere to sit was a little bit problematic, but yeah.
Oh, that's good. So thank you for sharing that itinerary. So a few more personal opinion questions. So what was your favourite part of the day and why?
I loved the cruise, the river cruise down the Seine with that lunch. It was just lovely. And I think it was obviously made because I happened to sit next to two lovely ladies who included me in the conversation, who were really interested to chat to me. And so we got on like a house on fire, really. So that was just a really lovely, relaxing part of the day. And also the food was so good.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of ready for that, just to kind of relax, enjoy the sights of Paris as we meander down the Seine, and have some really good company and conversation. So, yeah, for me, that was absolutely the highlight of the day.
Oh, perfect. And the next question, I think I know the answer to this already. What was your least favourite part of the day and why?
That was definitely Montmartre. I think by that point, I think everybody was a little bit tired. It was so, I cannot stress how crowded it was there. It was crazy busy. And I guess because I've been there so many times before, to be honest, I probably was a little less appreciative at that point of exploring that area. So I didn't. I kind of sat it out. To be honest, there was another family who decided to go back to catch Eurostar early because I think the children were tired by that point in the day. So that was probably my least favourite part of the day, and it was probably a little bit too long to spend in that area. So yeah, but otherwise, it was good.
That's good. So you took an organised day tour from Paris to London. So what you consider the pros and cons of the organised tour?
Okay, so the obvious pro is that it's all organised for you. So you don't have to book the train. You're driven around. You've got a tour guide who speaks French, which is fantastic. You can include meals. So obviously, depending on which class of Eurostar you take, you can have the meals on the way there and the way back, which I did include. So I had breakfast and a light meal on the way back, which was lovely. And I did include the river cruise, which was fantastic. So I didn't feel when I got to Paris that I was like, okay, I'm arrived at the Gare du Nord. What do I do now? You know, that kind of feeling, especially if not being there before. So, you know, it is a really good way if you want to see the main highlights and you haven't got much time. So if you are, you know, Paris has been on your bucket list for your entire life and you're thinking, okay, this is the only way that I'm going to see Paris, I can do this day trip. Then, yeah, absolutely. I would say that's a good thing to do if that's what you want to include that in your itinerary. You can do the trip independently. But I would say if you're going to do it independently, I would stay at least one night so that you're not rushing around and feeling stressed because you're trying to fit too many things in. So I would definitely, if you're doing it independently, I would just stay longer. But if you're limited time and you really just want to see the highlights of Paris, then it's a great way to do it. Cons, it's a long day, so it's tiring. It is rushed, so you don't see much more of some places than a quick glimpse out of the coach window. And also in the summer months, as I've mentioned for Montmartre, it was incredibly busy. I honestly have never seen Paris as busy as it was. And we were there last June, so we were there the year before, so I had a good comparison. It was also very hot. You know, I've got to the point really where it's some of the European cities over the summer months, if you can avoid them, really, it's just incredibly pleasant when it's very crowded. A lot of people everywhere, all want to see the same things, and it just not for me. I would say if you can, not to do it if it's a June, July, August thing, because I think just too hot, too crowded, and it may not be what you have in mind for Paris. So that might be what I would say. Yeah,
that's good. So anybody considering planning a day tour from Paris to London, what tips can you offer?
Well, I would say, first of all, stay near St. Pancras International so that you can get to the train early. Do not trust somebody else to set an alarm. Set your own alarm because you have to be there early. I'd read up about the places you're going to visit. So we have got on one of our other websites, tracystravelsandtime.com, you can find tips and info for first-time visitors to Paris, which I will link to in the show notes. So if this is going to be your first visit to Paris, there's some information about the different places that I'm sure, are included in this day trip if you do this particular tour. I would reconsider if you're thinking June, July and August, because honestly, it's crowded and hot. If you can, swing it. Book a premium economy on the Eurostar. Honestly, it's so nice. So nice. Meals are included at your seat, so they bring your food to you. Really comfortable. Lovely, lovely trip. Thoroughly enjoy it. Always love the Eurostar anyway. But if you can, try to swing premium economy. Don't take too much with you. I just took one bag with me. And if you do take a theft-proof bag, honestly, you do have to be careful in Paris. Even the small amount of walking that we did, you know, unfortunately, it's like any major city in the world, there are pickpockets around and there are scams going on. So just make sure that when you take a bag, that you take a theft-proof bag. Again, I can link to an article that I have, and I took it and it was absolutely fine. If you don't speak French, learn a few words of French. You will get taught, hopefully, by the guide on the coach, which is great. But just learn a few words that you can converse when you go into cafes and shops. I would read our article about the Eurostar or listen to our podcast episode about it so that you're prepared for the Eurostar trip. Remember, it's a long day, so it might not be suitable for everyone. Like say, there was a family on the day trip that I took who decided they didn't want to stop in Montmartre. They decided to get an earlier train back to London because I think that the children were tired by that point. I would take a couple of bottles of water with you. So I bought some in the shop in the departure lounge in London at the Eurostar and had those with me because, you were going to get thirsty and hot and there's not necessarily lots of stops to go and buy drinks. Don't forget to take your phone charger battery pack with you because it's a long day and you're going to need it to keep your phone charged. And do not forget to take your passport because you will need your passport to move and go over from London to Paris.
Oh,
yeah.
One last thing that's just occurred to me. Did you take any cash with you for the day?
No, I didn't. Actually, I took no cash at all, which we actually hadn't done last year when we were in Paris. No. Remember, we took no cash at all.
Yeah.
No, just used contactless the entire time, yeah. I didn't buy very much, to be honest. I popped into a shop actually beside the Champs-Elysees to get drinks because everybody was thirsty by that point and would drink everything. And also, I think I bought something in the Eurostar departure lounge. I bought a sandwich, I think, by that point as well. So I did buy bits and bobs, but I used contactless for all of those.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks to Doug for asking me the questions in this episode.
No problem. Always happy to talk about trains.
Yep, I know you are. Hopefully we have answered all your questions about visiting Paris on an organised day tour from London. You can always join our UK Travel Planning Facebook group for more related discussion. Links to various tours from London to Paris are included in this week's show notes at uktravelplanning.com/episode 72. That just leaves us to say, until next week, happy UK travel planning.